Hello and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 241 at scavengerlife.com. We are buried under 2 feet of snow.
Yep, a big snowstorm here. That's the latest news.
Breaking news.
Historic snow. Yeah, I'm not sure how people in the Midwest deal with. I mean, I think 2 feet of snow is probably no big deal to them, but in our area, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing for us is, you know what? I think because, especially because of our lifestyle, I mean, we could be stuck inside our house for a week, 2 weeks. I mean, as long as we have the internet.
As long as the electricity's on and we have the internet.
I mean, we have plenty to do here. I mean, 2 days is nothing. We have plenty of firewood. We have more than enough food. And we have plenty to list. I mean, you know, obviously, if the postal service isn't working, that would slow things down.
Right.
But,
well, I made a joke yesterday when you were like, oh no, we're like stuck in the house for 2 days. And I'm like, that's totally not abnormal. I mean, I'll work for 2 days straight at the house. Yeah. And if, you know, if I'm able to ship stuff, it's just like, you know.
Yeah.
It's no big deal.
No big deal. So for us this week, the interesting thing so, you know, Ryanne's family, her brother and his wife came last weekend.
Yeah.
And I always notice how hard it is to get back into our eBay, its process after an interruption like that. Either family visiting or we go take a trip or we have something to do. How it kind of, about a week before the event happens, things start kind of slowing down because we're having to change our tasks to get it ready. And then after these people leave or we come home, it takes about a week to get back into it.
Yeah.
Like, this week was very slow to me.
Right. It was hard to get back into it. Yeah, certainly.
It's just the way it is. I think that's just... So I think that's, you know, maybe for people just getting started out, you know, if you're wondering how to get this going, it's about... You got to create that pipeline, and it's like... You got to get that, like... That... A rhythm it's going, and if you have things in your life that are always interrupting you, it's gonna, I mean, you're never gonna build a business that way.
Well, lucky for us is sales keep happening because we have so much stuff online, so that does help a lot when we get interrupted. But one big interruption was you went down to North Carolina to get a bunch of wood.
That's right.
Scavenge. That was a whole long day.
If people, it's know us. This is what we love to do when we're redoing houses. Not only do we scavenge for our eBay stuff, we scavenge like building material. And I was on Craigslist and saw a guy was giving away, you know, 300 to 400 square feet of heartwood pine flooring.
Right.
You know, the really nice kind that costs like, you know, $5 a board foot or something.
Just crazy amounts.
And it was only $350. It was a steal.
Yeah.
So I got up early, 6 a.m., drove all the way to North Carolina, picked it up, drove all the way back. But you know what? I was so psyched the entire time.
Yeah.
You know?
No, as long as you're into it, I mean, that's what makes it worth it, is like, man, you woke up when it was dark out, and you got home when it was dark at like 8 or 9 o'clock eventually.
Driving through the mountains between North Carolina and Virginia.
It's a lot of driving.
Yeah, but it's totally worth it.
Yeah. And then we walked it all up the stairs of the rental house.
Yeah, if people saw that new house we bought that we're going to rent, there's basically...
It's like 38 stairs.
On a small hill, and we actually don't own the property behind it, so we can't actually pull up behind it. I need to make friends with a neighbor and see if he'll let me do that. But it was good exercise. We carried it all
we
up.
did it. It's just one of those things where you have to be like, we're doing this. Yep. This is happening.
But it's all about scavenging.
Yeah.
God, it's so great. Yep.
So something I noticed in our neighborhood that I just wanted to mention, we have a young couple that lives next to us and then a young couple that lives across from us, which is awesome. We have like young people in our neighborhood, this part of the neighborhood. It's really cool. But our neighbor next to us a couple of weeks ago got an SUV. He did not have that before. So he's all like, I don't know what the word is, like going up on the scale here, right? So then just the other day, we were talking to our other neighbor across the street, and he pulls in with this brand new, even bigger SUV, and he's like, got a new car. Like, I think these kids are younger than me, you know? and it's just, it makes me happy for them that they're like, we're successful, we can do this. But at the same time, it makes me really sad where I'm like, really? Like, you definitely have a much higher car payment now because I know you didn't pay cash for those things.
Yeah.
It just makes me sad that, like, that's what they're meant to do. You know what I'm sure that there's, like, pressure, like, come on, we gotta, like, move up in the world.
Well,
and
I mean, that's just, like, if you kind of go on autopilot, that's what kind of everything's built for.
Right.
Like, as you get older and you become more successful or make more money, then its reward for that is having nicer stuff.
Nicer stuff,
You can drive a nicer car, a bigger car. You can change out your car every 4
every
years.
2 years,
you know,
every 4 years.
That's just, and I bet that car is nice to drive.
Oh, I bet it's great.
But you know, we're kind of the weirdo frugal community where it's like, don't just drive the car that works and then save the money that you would have bought a new car with and pay off your debt, invest it, you know, buy something that's going to make you money.
Yeah.
So that way you don't have to work till you're in your 60s. You could stop working earlier, or you could do work that you actually enjoy and not have to worry about if it's making a whole lot of money or not.
Right. Well, the funny thing is about the guy across the street was, okay, they have 3 kids. They have a massive, like, Honda Odyssey, which is like a caravan. So they have a caravan to tote the kids around, and then he just got this massive car. So it's just like, you know, it's what's expected, you know. The hilarious thing was he had a Kia, like, little tiny sedan before, just for him. He commutes to work, and he was like,
he drives an hour and a half one way
to work to Northern Virginia, right? Ugh, horrible. And he was like, we were like, oh, what happened to the Kia? Because it was a Kia. And he's like, oh, the Kia had 176,000 miles. That thing was, like, ready to die. And it's so funny because I'm like, our car has 276,000 miles on it. Like, it's just so funny that someone's like, that's their perception. They're just like, oh, I got to get rid of this thing right away.
And again, this is not a car podcast, but
no,
we're talking about cars. So we actually took our car to have the oil change, you know, the one that's from 96, so it's
96.
20 years old, has 270,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
And the guy who does our car, he's a really cool guy. He was like, you know, the engine's great. You're going to still be able to drive this thing for as long as you want, but everything else is getting old, and I need to redo belts and hoses because they're just getting old.
They're just getting cracked.
We actually put another $800 into that car, and it was a big question we had. Like,
it always is. Like,
do we go ahead and get a different car? I mean, maybe not a new car, but a new to us.
Yeah.
Or do we keep investing in a car that's, you know,
20 years old?
20 years old. Yeah. And the answer the guy gave us, it was great. He's like the perfect for a scavenger like us. He's like, if you like this car, you can keep driving this car.
Right.
You know, the cost to keep fixing it will be low compared to its replacement cost.
Right.
You know, spending $4,000 to $8,000 on a nicer used car, or just keep putting, you know, $500 to $800
every few years. Yeah. So the thing that we always say is, number one, we love our car, love it. I love that car. I don't want to get rid of it. And number two is, it's cheaper than getting a new car. That's the thing. I don't want a car payment like the people all around us.
And plus, we just don't want to, you know, with as far as cash flow, I don't want to have to write a $5,000 check.
Not right now.
Because we have other places to put that money. And I want to wait till I can get an electric, self-driving car. That's what I want. I want a car where I don't have to drive it. We can just get in and be like, take me to this auction, and then while we're going there, we're like a listing on eBay.
Yep, exactly.
And, that's what's going on.
That's the dream.
Okay, that's our car podcast.
So we have a trip coming up in the spring. It's our first big trip of the year.
You know, so we still do some video work, and that's our like career jobs. Yeah. So we're doing 2 jobs in late April and May over on the West Coast, or
sort of, yeah.
So we actually just booked those flights, which is always nerve-wracking to me because I hate flying. But I feel better when it's all booked. We have the exact seats we want, and we're going to be gone for almost a month.
Yeah, it's funny. Looking at the calendar, I was like, this is like almost 4 weeks.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
talk about an interruption in our eBay business.
And our rental business.
So we're going to have a job for a week. We have 2 weeks off. And then we have a job for a week.
A week, yeah.
And so our choice is, do we fly home?
Right.
Stay home for, a week, 10 days, and then fly all the way back? Or do we just stay there? And so our choice is, because we have this kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
So we're going to be in Washington State.
Yeah.
In Oregon. And so we're going to just go to like Bend, Oregon, and just rent an Airbnb.
Yeah.
And just hang out for 10 days. And then our second job is in
New Orleans.
It's New Orleans, so we'll go down there. We'll stay a couple days, 3 days early.
Yeah.
And then we'll fly home.
Yeah. So it's. I mean, look, it's so crazy. Like, these are the types of trips that people save up for years to go on. So I have to be grateful.
Yeah.
That like we'll have 2 weeks in between to like travel around Oregon, go to Seattle.
So we're gonna take so we're gonna turn kind of a work trip into a vacation trip,
which is scavenging. I'm sure we'll be scavenging out on the West Coast.
Seriously.
Okay, so the other day we were in the next big town over, where there is actually 2 Goodwills, but we went to one Goodwill because we were like, all right, it's right there. It's right next to the grocery outlet that we go to, and we usually stop in there when we're grocery shopping. And again, we found some really nice shoes. We found a bunch of nice shoes, but then on the shelf, like you guys know, at a Goodwill, there'll be like a shelf of women's like knee-high boots, and a bunch of them are fake leather or not nice leather.
Just cheap exhilaration.
Just cheap. Yeah, like basically pay less. And you know what? I've sold those before too. But anyway, so I was holding these boots, these 2 pairs of boots, and I'm like, this leather is super nice. I don't know what brand this is, but whatever. I put them in the cart. Two different pairs. And when we got home, we looked up the brands, and they're worth like whatever, $400 to $500 used each.
I think we can get $300 to $500 for each pair.
Each pair. So, I mean, really, it's one of those times where you're like, we could have easily just been like, let's not go.
We always, poo-poo on Goodwill because, their prices are raised. It feels more just like a department store, really.
Yeah, it feels like TJ Maxx.
There's this one we always go to anytime we're at the discount, it's grocery store. And we always are finding good stuff there, so...
Look, if you can find... And, okay, we paid $4 each for them. So, no matter what, we're going to make some kind of money. Yeah. So, that was exciting to come home, look up the brands, and be like...
Seriously.
Ooh, that's a good find.
We still have not been doing a lot of scavenging for inventory.
No.
Except for things it's like this where we're just out and about because we're trying to eat into our backlog. But it's always exciting. It's always a fun thing to do. To go scavenging.
It is fun. So, okay, postal changes went into effect, and they're actually in effect on eBay labels now. So, the most exciting change for sellers is first class mail is now up to 15.99 ounces. And some of us found when we were printing labels, it even says if you put 1 pound in, it lets you print a first class label for 1 pound. That's huge.
So how much is that, or is it?
It's like $3.50 or something. Someone correct me on that. I have to look it up, but that's like half the price of priority.
So what kind of things will you now be able to ship?
I could ship like a pair of women's shoes will fit in a 1 pound like poly mailer thing. Some shirts could fit in that. I mean, just any housewares that sometimes a mug. But the problem is, look, since 1 pound was always basically priority, I only have priority boxes for stuff like that. So I need to either order boxes. There's a nice size box, the 9x6x3. You can buy it on Amazon. Is just a brown box. So you can put a first class label. Or I need to, something that's awesome is at Walmart, if you go when they're restocking the deli area, they'll have basically that size box, like a kind of small either candy box or deli cheese box thing. And those are perfect for doing that. So if that is true, that you can do 1 pound on first class, that's amazing. The only problem is 1 pound with priority was great because it had insurance in it. So if you wanted to insure those items just automatically, you could do that up to $100 if you're a top rated seller. So that's not included anymore. So you have to kind of factor that in, but it's still cool.
So that's cool, but so prices have gone up on everything else?
Yes.
Are they big, like big changes, or is it like 20% more?
I don't know what the percentage is, but I noticed things felt high. Like when I was shipping, I think it was 2 pounds to California from here when we're on the East Coast. It used to be $8.99 with the discount. Now it's like something like 10 something. I'm like, whoa!
And it's
like $1.50 more
with a discount.
With the discount. So, yeah, that's kind of a bummer.
But again, for people it's like us that do calculated shipping,
we
it
don't
doesn't
have to do
matter
anything
because the buyer's going to pay for it. And if eBay's getting hit, Etsy's going to get hit.
Everybody, anyone who's using the post office, Amazon, all that stuff. So that's just the way it goes. They raise their prices every couple years. That's just what happens. Speaking of Amazon, so Amazon finally, it took them like 10, 12 days, but they did accept us into the beauty category.
Right, so we want to thank Eve, who had come on our blog a couple weeks ago and said that these are categories that you can get into easily. And
at the moment
we got into all those, but then we even started applying because it's never tried it to some of these things like it's beauty. And
I need to try health.
And
a different one.
And all we did was buy something online and send them.
Yeah, I bought some stuff at Lucky Vitamin and I showed them the receipt, and that did it. So the question was, we got a comment on the blog saying that you can't send, because we have a bunch of nail polish, right? And they were saying it's a hazmat thing, so you can't send it into FBA. But I was able to list it merchant fulfilled. I listed a bunch of our stuff on Amazon merchant fulfilled. I even made my own listings because I do lots of, I think it's 4, 6, and 10.
Yep.
So I'm hoping that because it's its own listing, that it'll be different than anyone else who's listing it as a single bottle.
Yep.
So far, nothing is sold.
So, we've been talking about Amazon for a long time, asking people questions who sell on Amazon. People have been very helpful in giving us numbers and understanding how we can still be the kind of scavengers we are and still send things into FBA and not do retail arbitrage.
Yeah.
Just because it's not really our style. But we can still do it the way we do it. And so we're going to see. I feel like everything's coming into play. We're going to do it.
We're trying it.
And our friend Vic, who is a listener, is going to come into town and kind of help us out.
Look, change is slow.
Yeah.
That's it. It takes a while to...
It takes what it takes.
Do new things. So that's interesting.
So we last week we were talking about... I was asking people who like their jobs because, a lot of people that are listening to this it's like us. Like, we didn't really like it's working for other people. Yeah. And I never really found a job where I felt appreciated. So I was asking, is there anyone out there that like really likes your job and you're well paid and you have freedom and you can solve problems? It's without like getting permission all the time. Yeah. And there were a handful of people that either emailed us or called in or answered on the blog. And it seems like many of these people have like kind of white collar jobs.
Yeah.
Where flexibility and good pay is kind of built into the job, Because it's
a higher end, fancier job.
Right. And it seems like, it's a lot of like people who are engineers or they're in the financial industry or they're in like tech startups.
Yeah.
And those all would make sense where I don't know. Those are just those.
They just have a
jobs.
Different culture of like, innovation and things like that.
And and it seems like maybe the more blue collar, or I guess they call them pink collar.
What is pink collar?
It's like
that's weird.
It's like when you think blue collar, you think like guys that work in factories, and pink collars like nurses and girls. It's all
that's dumb.
It's all dumb. But anyway,
okay.
but that's a wording for it.
Okay.
But it's like hourly wage jobs. It seems like often those are the ones that are more draining.
Yeah.
I mean, I work both kind of jobs.
Right.
Hourly jobs and then jobs where it's more like a salary and they kind of treat you better. I mean...
I hated both of them.
I mean, yeah, I hated both of them. I mean, in hourly wage jobs, I mean, I had jobs where you had to clock out for lunch, clock out for breaks.
God.
I mean, where...
They're like, you're not getting paid for this 15 minutes.
Where people watch you. You know, like, you know, there are some people on the blog that are like, I have a great job. I can, like, leave, it's for lunch, come back late, I'm, like, scavenging. And, you know, like, people are really keeping an eye on me.
Right.
And those are the more, I think, where it's a salary job. Where there's no clocking in. The only thing about those kind of jobs are they often expect a lot more out of you. So I was often working more than 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
I you know, would be expected to work on weekends.
Yeah, because you're salaried. They're just like, come in whenever.
Or just its responsibilities were greater, and they didn't tell me I had to work on weekends, but in order to get the work done I needed to get done, I would work more. So, I don't know. I feel like a salary job for me often was they're buying my life.
Yeah.
At least with an hourly job, it's like I have these set hours. As soon as I clock out, it sucks while I'm there, but if I clock out, F you guys, like, now it's my time.
Right.
When I was a salary worker, it's like...
Oh, they call you whenever.
Bought my life.
Yeah, just, yep.
But that's just me.
Yeah.
There were people that said they're getting well paid.
Right.
401ks, total freedom.
I'm like, why are you scavenging for junk to sell on eBay?
I mean, one guy even says he gets a car or they pay for his mileage and his gas and his insurance. I'm like, man,
nice.
Don't ever lose that job.
I know.
That's awesome. And then just I also something else I talked about. We had been talking about don't make things precious.
Too precious, anyway.
Like if you're a scavenger, one pitfall is you're finding stuff and suddenly everything's like really special and you don't want to list it because maybe you'll not sell it for enough, and then there's a bit of an argument on the blog because whatever. I think for me, my point is simply if everything seems precious, you're probably overdoing it. Yes, every so often we'll find something that's really amazing.
Yeah.
Like kind of like it starts to kind of glow, like it's got like a glow. You're like, there's something really special about this. Let's put extra time into researching it. Maybe we'll send photos to an auction house. Maybe we'll take it to an expert. Maybe we'll call somebody, you know, because we don't want to let it go.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess my point is just if everything that you're finding seems like that, I don't think any of us are that good at scavenging, you know.
I mean, and like you say, that will paralyze you.
Yeah.
So just, you can't. I definitely have that feeling about certain things, and then I'm like, just sell it. Just sell it. Speaking of which.
Okay, so we're about to do our numbers here. It was definitely, for us, quieter.
Yeah, it was
than
quiet.
It has been.
Yeah.
But we did okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you know, I guess it's just how it is. This is just, you know, again, we talk about having a 12-month business.
Yeah.
Some months are going to be really good, some weeks not. Just the way it is, and we have to balance everything so it all works out. So, in our main store, we sold 20 items.
Yep.
Which does not seem like a lot, you know?
Yeah, I know, because it's not.
And we made about $1,000.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. On Bonanza, we sold $15. So this is kind of our experiment. We're paying this $70 subscriber fee for It's This Month, and they're supposed to give us
7 days of turbo traffic.
Sometimes we're supposed to get someone of turbo traffic, and
I hope it happens.
We're hoping for the kind of sales we got during Christmas time, but so far it hasn't happened. And on Amazon, we actually just sold something on It's Merchant Fulfilled for
$35. Yep.
And then our second eBay store, we sold 12 items for a bit over $400.
That's good. So that's 35 items.
Yeah. So overall, we sold about $1,400 worth of stuff. So about $200 a day, and if we're hitting $200 a day, I'm happy.
We're not sad.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about things we sold.
Yes.
So one of the highest price item in our main store was a Tumi Bag. It's a leather luggage bag. Tumi, Tumi. It sold for $250. We had it up for $275. We took an offer of $250. And Tumi always sells. It's a high-end brand. People look for it. If you can buy it cheap, I think we bought it for $10.
I had never heard of it, so if people are like, I've never heard of that, you're like me.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is something that we started to learn, is that when you go to a thrift store or auction, people get rid of it's luggage,
Yeah.
Or someone
estate
dies.
Sales, I mean, they have a whole set of luggage.
And the kids just give it away.
Yeah.
And some stuff that doesn't look very special can be valuable.
Right.
Even if it's not a super name brand. But Samsonite, I mean...
Samsonite sells. Look, if
like
you,
that stuff.
I mean, you can think of Samsonite as just regular luggage. Try to go buy a Samsonite hard shell, big whatever. Those things are expensive. So if you find them at the thrift store for a couple bucks, we sell that stuff all the time. Luggage is a great seller. So something else that sold, this was interesting. It was an embroidered footstool with hand needlepoint piece.
It had a scene.
A scene on it. So it sold for $170, and this is why. Someone messaged us. I don't know if it was someone who listens to the podcast or not, but someone messaged us and said, look, this is Elsa Williams' kit called Paul Revere's Ride. You can buy the kit. It's for a footstool, but you have a finished piece. So some people want the kit because they want to make it. Some people just want the finished piece. So I actually I changed the price from like $70 for this little footstool to $200. But then I put it on sale because I actually put a bunch of old stuff on sale. So it was $170 on sale. It was 15% off.
And plus we added the keywords.
Oh, I added the keywords Elsa Williams, Paul Revere's Ride, like finished footstool, whatever.
And it sold.
And that sold.
Yep.
So thank you if that person was a listener, because that's very helpful.
And even if not, I mean, I find that happens often on eBay where, sometimes people are annoying about it, where they're trying to school you on what something is.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's very helpful and they, give you actually good info.
Yeah. No, that was super helpful.
Now, some of these things you guys might have seen in the video that we made over the week in our What Sells video.
Yeah, so okay. People were funny about this one. It was a shaving mug, probably from the 60s or 70s. Basically, okay, so it sold for $40.
Yep.
Jay hates it when I don't say the price right away. It sold for $40. The thing is, it's vintage because it's from the 60s or 70s. But it's an antique reproduction. So if you find a shaving mug, it's called an occupational shaving mug because it said teacher, or if it's like, brick mason or whatever. If you find a hand-painted one with someone's name on it, or just whatever, if it's hand-painted, it's probably from the 1800s, and those sell for hundreds of dollars.
Right.
This one was one of those, but a fake one. Still sold for $40.
I feel like I remember when we first put it up, some people keep an eye on our store, and they were like, you're crazy to put it up for $40. Like, I have one, and it's like $10, and it won't sell.
Right.
And, people have them up cheap, and I don't know. We just think that's what it's worth, and we're willing to wait, and I don't know why people bought ours, but it worked.
Well, maybe because all those $10 ones are gone now.
I mean, and here's another one. We sold an Enamel Bedpan.
Yes.
For $30.
Right.
And this is, like a vintage, I guess, in hospitals.
Yeah, sort of, it's medical supplies.
But so it's like, why, when we listed it, like, people are selling them for $5.
Yeah.
On auction, it sells for 99 cents.
Right.
But it's so cool. It's well made.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we just thought it's worth more than that. So we put ours up for $30.
And it sold.
It took about 6 months, but hey,
I don't even think it took that long.
Yeah.
I think it was even shorter than that. But you know what? Here's the deal. So I find also as a buyer, I've said this a million times, there's sometimes when I'm like, I don't want to wait for an auction. All the other ones are on auction. This one's, a reasonable price. I'll buy this one. And that's it.
Yep.
They're like, I want it now. It's going to get here in 3 days. Great.
Yeah.
So another cool sale was a vintage 1970s calculator. And it sold to props department for the show The Americans. And it sold for $80. And the great thing was, so we wake up, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning, and this woman's messaging us, can you do UPS overnight label. This was on Monday. It was a holiday. It was MLK Day. And get it shipped to me overnight. Well, USPS wasn't running, but I looked it up online, and UPS was doing it, and we have a drop box in our town. If the box is small enough, it'll fit. So we were like, let's do it. So she paid like $90 with the shipping.
And there were, other
like that.
Sellers that had them cheaper. But I think for us, she was probably just emailing or messaging a bunch of people.
And whoever responded
and
first.
I bet whoever was going to be it's quickest. So that's another good excuse to answer questions as soon as they come through.
So when I mentioned that in the video, 2 other people on the blog said the prop buyer for the Americans also bought some stuff from us. So that means that, number one, it's, there are not that many people selling quality, weird vintage items. I mean, there are,
but...
It's
kind of weird.
It's kind of funny.
That's amazing.
That means that the people that are associated with this blog, who like to talk on this blog, have good quality, unique vintage items that prop sellers are looking for.
I do wonder, I've always wondered this, how many people are like us, that have small to moderate size stores? Even though we have, 4,000 items.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that many items compared to a big seller.
Like a 10,000.
I wonder how many people are in our realm who are selling kind of quirky, weird stuff.
Yeah, I would love to know that number.
There's 100,000 of us. Is there 5,000 of us? How many of us are out there?
I would love to know
curious
that.
To know. We also sold.
This is all you.
Some baseball equipment.
Yep. It was catcher's gear, right?
It was catcher's
mask.
gear, a mask, the chest thing and the knee pads. And we sold it for $80.
Yeah.
And actually I bought it because I wanted the bag. It came in a big baseball bag.
So it was bonus.
Because we love bags and I even told the person who we bought it from, I don't really want this stuff inside because
it's bulky.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's just here's a price for all of it. Just take it away. And it just reminds me, we actually do really well buying used sports equipment.
Yeah, there's this one time where we bought this huge box of different size, basically Little League, batting helmets.
And they were all
we sold the whole thing.
Yeah, and they're all beat up and
dirty.
But then we just priced it. It was over $100, and we shipped it in a big box. All these helmets.
Huge box.
But if you think about it, if you're at a thrift store or at a yard sale or something and find a big lot of things like sports equipment, I mean, anyone that's starting a
Little League team
or T-ball, a softball team, if it's adult equipment, I mean, that's perfect because then they can just do one price and just get, a usable equipment.
Right.
Not pro sports or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's just to fool around.
Even if you're buying that stuff brand new, if you're buying 15 helmets brand new, I mean, it's expensive.
Yeah.
So if you're $100, 15 helmets, the guy's great.
Yeah.
So that's always good stuff to get. It is bulky though; it does take up room. So another thing that we sold that was also $80 was a Miller's Falls hand drill. A vintage hand drill. Now, if you have a Miller's Falls hand drill that's in pristine condition, they can sell, in the hundreds.
Yeah, I find
I never find them that nice.
I find the prices are all over the place, but this just goes to guys liking old tools.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I would love if anyone knows why or buys this kind of stuff. I'd love to hear why people pay so much money for old tools. Are these tools actually being used for making cabinets the old-fashioned way, or is it just where guys like to buy them because they just like to hang them up on the wall and they're trying to get a whole set? I don't know.
I will say that the shipping label was to a woman.
Oh yeah?
So
maybe she bought it for her man.
That's true.
Yeah.
That
I'm not saying a woman wouldn't buy tools.
No, but also I see men buying women's clothes and stuff, which no judgment. Anyone can do anything they want with that. But I think a lot of times when you buy stuff, it's one person has the account.
Has the account.
Yeah, and it just goes to whoever. So you can't really judge who's going to do what with it.
Okay, and then the last thing we'll mention is, because it's just a fun thing for a scavenger, we were out one day, going to different towns,
Yeah.
buying different things for other projects, and we're always, again, we're just stopping at thrift stores wherever we are.
Yeah.
And we stopped at, it was actually supposed to be a restore.
Like a habitat restore. Like we were looking for like house stuff for the new
Right.
house.
Like we're looking for hardware stuff, and it turned out that the one we went into is more like a thrift store.
It was like it looks like a little Goodwill.
super junky.
Real junky.
I mean, junky.
I mean, we couldn't find it. We were like, I literally bought scrap paper from them. I was like, this is all I can
but
find.
I found a leather bag, a
Yeah.
really nice bag,
Made in Colombia.
and we were just tired. End of the day, it was $3. I bought it several months ago. We put it online. It sold for $80.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
so
a good turnaround.
Just, I got to remember that $80 probably paid for our entire trip that
Yep.
day. So that's a fun thing about scavenging when you're doing other things, is that the payoff isn't immediate,
Right.
but you're gathering things that day that are going to basically pay for just it's your lifestyle. You know?
Like remember those shoes that sold last week? It was $75 pair of boots that we found on the street in Amsterdam.
Yep.
That probably paid for like
Absolutely.
that paid for like a grocery store trip for like the week.
Right.
One of the weeks we were there. Pair of shoes found on the street.
Yep.
You know, like you have to think
Yep.
about it like that.
Throw it in
Like,
the pipeline.
It was just like, you know, in the garbage.
Yep.
So
Okay, so a bit of news, or first of all, customer issues.
no customer issues.
This has been a really good holiday season for us. I mean, it wasn't as good as some other years as far as sales go, and everyone seems to complain about that. Even people on Amazon are talking about how sales weren't quite as high. That's fine. But normally around the holiday season, we get a lot of its returns. And I think that's just a normal thing. People get stuff, they give them as gifts, stuff gets returned. We have not had that at all.
Yeah.
And so like,
it's amazing.
I was thinking, okay, it's now, you know, late January, we're going to really start getting its returns. We had no returns this week.
Yeah.
And we had no higher returns than as we normally do.
Yeah.
So, good
yeah,
for
it makes
us.
me feel good.
Breaking news. Okay, so actually,
Oh my god. Can I like take that and use that on every
Absolutely.
episode? You made a little jingle.
so just as we were recording this, we just sold something.
Yeah, tell them
that
what it
will
is.
add to our total. And we sold a set of 8 stainless steel steak knives for $120. They had make offer on it. No make offer. I'll just take a full price, thank you. So we just made $120.
Oh, I love that. $120 on a set of 8 mid-century Gerber
Yep.
steak knives. That is a sweet sale.
And I will say, this is an example of where, you know, going through the piles of silverware or flatware that at a thrift store, and I'd never heard of this kind before, but the style and just the quality of it.
You could tell.
You can just tell. So I didn't have to look it up. I didn't have to.
You took a chance.
Yeah, they were cheap enough.
Probably
you know.
like a $3 chance.
Yep, if even that. So
Yeah.
okay, so actual news this week.
Yeah, get back to the news.
So eBay put out their new seller dashboard, and this coincides with their new policy of how they're going to do defects and and all that stuff. And I will say the dashboard looks cleaner. Like it actually just feels like a 2016 website.
Yeah.
You know, so it's fine. I don't know. I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
We only have the new dashboard on one store.
No. So that's
seller dashboard. Sorry.
So that's a seller hub.
That's a seller hub. Oh my god.
This is the dashboard that keeps you up to date on like
even
what
I don't know what's
are.
what here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So it's cleaner.
Ooh, I haven't
It's
looked at
fine.
it yet.
The new rules are in place. It's fine.
It's fine.
The one thing
It's
people were
fine.
mentioning in the blog is soon eBay is going to demand that you have 30-day return policy if you want to remain a top-rated a seller.
Right.
And, and I know for some people that's, like, insane. 30 days? I mean, I'm lucky if I do a week. I don't want to take returns at all.
You have... Look,
I don't know.
It's 2016. We're competing against Amazon where people can return things whenever they
just
feel like
anywhere.
it.
Any retail store, 30 days is like the
like
norm.
Walmart is 30 days.
And so I just want to bring the drama down. We've had 30-day return policy for a couple of years now. A long time. Because for us, it's just like, why not? It could be 180 days, and I don't think its returns are going to rise, and I'll tell you why.
Tell me why, Jay.
Because when most people buy things, they buy them because they want them.
Yeah.
Like, only insane people would be buying them just so they could return them. I mean, what kind of crazy life is that? So most people want these things, so they're not going to return them, even if they have 3 days, 5 days, 180 days.
Right, right.
Like, that's what we do. Like,
I want the things I'm buying.
I bought this thing because I want it. I don't want to return it. The only reason why I return it is if I'm unhappy. And I'm going to return that item no matter what.
Yeah.
If I'm unhappy.
Right.
Right,
exactly.
So that's why I think the 30-day its return policy is not a big deal.
No, it's not a big deal. We haven't seen a change.
Yeah. Things we learned in the comments. Going along with people kind of letting us know about jobs that they enjoy.
Yes.
And we've talked too about how there's like a secret society of nurses who seem to also sell on eBay.
Yeah.
Either ex-nurses or current ex-nurses who are doing it on the side. Well, it seems like there's also a secret society of people who are engineers.
Yes.
Who are also trash elves.
Someone mentioned, look, I'm an engineer, da-da-da, and then all these other people were like, me too.
Katie Burt, Dollar Flipper, a vintage...
WV.
In West Virginia.
Yep.
Our neighbor. So people who are like electrical engineers and other kinds of engineers were working for, it's NASA.
Now sell junk on the internet.
Yeah. Katie was good because she was, and we did an interview with her a couple of years ago. I mean, she's good where she really laid out where she doesn't make as much now as she did as an engineer. Her lifestyle is definitely not as full of bling as maybe it was, but that she likes it more because of
the freedom, man.
Her life. Yeah,
the freedom.
And she actually kind of has a parallel life to us. I think she bought another house and she's renting one of them.
Oh, so, nice.
Good for her.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's interesting when a certain groups of people that do certain kind of things in their lives also sell on eBay.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating.
Okay, Daniel, who we did an interview with, him and his wife, it's recently.
Of New Vintage New York.
We've been talking, and because people were, we've been talking about taxes on the blog, and him and I started talking. And he mentioned that you can do something that I think is this is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Is if people sit down a second, okay?
People sit down, have a seat.
Okay. There's an issue with people they buy things and they don't know how to do cost of goods sold for their taxes. Because there's been this thinking that you can only write off stuff that sells. So if you buy $100 worth of stuff at Goodwill, you have to, by the end of the year, supposedly figure out what of that $100 actually sold, and you can only write that off. And we've talked about people doing
spreadsheets.
So Daniel says you don't have to do that. There's a thing called a method of deducting costs, and it's an IRS-approved way to do it. They actually expect you to do it, small businesses, for under $1 million. And I was like, are you sure about that? And so he actually talked to, I guess, his accountant or someone he knows.
Yeah.
And gave me a link, and I will link it to it on the blog. So if you do your own taxes, then you can use this to do your own taxes. Or if you have an accountant, you can give it to the accountant. So it's good. You can now officially deduct all of your inventory costs that you buy in that year, whether it sells or not.
So basically, here's the deal. It's not COGS. What it is because you're not, Target, where you have every, UPC that's scanned in and,
Right.
You went to a garage sale, you spent $50. you can deduct that $50.
As long as you, right. And so...
As long as you have a receipt for it.
I mean, the only downfall of that is that if you buy a bunch of stuff one year and then don't buy stuff a second year, you can't deduct anything...
The next year.
Next year, even if it sells. You can only do it in a year that
you bought it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's really good news for all of us that have been worried about how to keep track of inventory. It no longer seems to matter. I'm actually trying to get an interview or to record a conversation with an actual accountant, with a CPA who will come on our show and will...
Yeah.
Our show here.
Our
fancy show.
Come on the studio
Come on
set.
our podcast, and so I'll start gathering questions from people, but that's one I really just want to double check and make sure.
Yeah, look, we want to get the CPA stamp of approval on that method of deductions.
Right.
Because for people like us who deal with scavenging...
Right. So that way the only thing that you have to do is just keep track of your receipts.
Right.
That you go to thrift stores and a yard.
Right.
Now, things like a yard sales and flea markets and stuff like that, I think that's just where you're just going to have to make sure you're keeping good records of, like, I spent $20 at a yard sale.
Don't quote me on this, but I think that if you went to a yard sale of a person, they're not going to have a receipt book. Keep your own receipt book. Keep a notebook.
Right.
Write it into GoDaddy or whatever. I spent, $25.50 at a yard sale.
But we do have to say we're not tax specialists.
Right.
We're people on the internet, and so that's just one piece of info. I will put a link to what Daniel sent me that explains this process of doing inventory. And then you know what? Don't trust me. Verify it for yourself.
As we always say.
Cool. One last thing as far as like what we learned in the blogs and the comments. So Marco, who lives in Texas, but he's also from it's Netherlands, emailed me. And also Mike, who is also a buddy, an online buddy. They both separately told me about like an app called MileIQ.com.
So what this is, it's a mileage app. And so what you do is you can log your mileage, I'm assuming, with GPS. So you're like, start.
It's a phone app.
It's a phone app.
So anytime you start to get in your car and drive for a business,
right?
Like I'm going to
Goodwill. Boom.
Push a button, or I think you swipe, and then it keeps track of that.
Right.
And then when it's just personal, you swipe it the other way,
right.
And then it goes. We have nothing to do with this app.
This is great though, because people are crazy about mileage, just like yard sale receipts. It's like, how do I keep track of this, that, and the other thing?
So I think you have to pay for its use somehow.
Okay.
But supposedly it keeps track of it, then it emails you. And this kind of reminds me of someone a couple months ago had posted about there's actual piece of hardware that you can keep in your car that does all the mileage too, and so it's a one-time fee, and then you
buy the item. Look, that is a great business expense. I will tell you that, because that is so helpful. In fact, I need to get this because I need to.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, that could be the cost of this.
Yeah. You deduct that because that's for business. I mean, if you're just a regular person, you're not keeping track of mileage, so you have to have this software or that piece of equipment.
So we appreciate. I mean, like we always say, part of the fun of us doing this podcast is we learn from people because we don't know everything.
No, we don't. Some people like to pretend we do. But we don't.
I feel like I'm going to start skipping over this part. What our coming week will be like.
Let's just break it down.
Let's just copy and paste the thing we do every week. We're like taking pictures and listing.
I mean,
there's no really specific project. It's just I'm looking in front of me. There's piles of stuff. We're getting through this stuff.
We're going to be shoveling snow.
I will say,
I know that.
Since we booked our travel, so we leave the end of April. So we have basically part of January, February, March, and then half of April. So we have like 2.5 months.
My God.
I really want to try and get through much of what we have backlogged.
Yes.
You know? I mean,
no, I know. I want to.
It's possible.
I want to.
Okay. So we're now going to answer questions. People can either call or email us with questions or comments.
The phone number is 540-407-8486. It's just a voicemail line. You have 3 minutes to leave a message.
Hi, Jay and Ryanne. My name is Matt, and I'm from Chicago, and I just wanted to thank you for the podcast the other week, and have to tell you that Dan presented a very interesting argument about not including measurements in listings for clothing. I've been selling on eBay for about the last 2 years and focused primarily on men's clothing, and not including measurements would save a considerable amount of time. So I've made the decision that I'm going to do an experiment in my store where for the next 50 to 100 items, I'm not going to do any measurements on. In my listing, I'm probably going to say something along the lines of measurements are available upon request, and just see what happens. You know, if I get an influx of questions or returns, I'll reevaluate and go from there. But I do have to admit, I've already listed a few items without measurements and already had some sales. One for $75 and another for $30. So thank you so much for the podcast. I really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
So I just want to clarify. This is something that I always forget to clarify when we're talking about not putting measurements. For new clothes, new contemporary clothes that have a size label, yeah, totally makes sense. If you have vintage clothes, you gotta have measurements. I'm sorry, you just do. Because an extra large from the 1950s is like a medium today.
Right. And I think that Dan and his wife were very clear.
Yes.
That they sell mainly contemporary clothes.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, and it's true. Like, when I go to Walmart to buy underwear,
yeah,
I know what size is, like, medium, you know? Like,
right.
That's what I get. Like, I'm not really... I don't take a measuring tape out.
Right.
And
if you're buying, like, Express brand sweater in a large, you're like, all right, you know. But if you're buying a, cashmere sweater from the 1930s and it's a small,
But I will say that we still do measurements on everything. I mean, we sell some contemporary clothes, but for the most part, we're selling more vintagey kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, again, this is why we talk to other sellers to get their opinion.
Yeah.
We do experiments ourselves.
Right.
I mean, all of us should just be trying things out.
Yeah, you should try experiments. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You could change your business tomorrow because this experiment could be very successful for you. And I totally, think that's a very good idea.
Yeah.
Hi, Jay and Ryan. This is Jason from Kansas City, which, by the way, for shipping is a great place to be because I can put a price for shipping to either coast, and it usually runs up to be about the same. But I do have a shipping question for you. I noticed in your What Sold video that you had some carpet cleaning solution and some concrete dissolver. And I thought that maybe that was some sort of a hazmat thing. Is there a special way that you ship those? Is there anything special that you have to do other than seal it in a plastic bag and throw it in a box? That's my question. Thanks. Appreciate you. Look forward to your answer.
Okay, so first of all, yes, you're in Kansas City, so you're basically right in the middle of the country, which is great for your customers on the coast because they're not paying to ship things across the country like they are for me. So that's awesome. The other thing is, yes, so the carpet cleaning solution and the concrete cleaner, I don't know if those are hazmat because they're not flammable. Like the carpet cleaning solution is basically soap. And the concrete dissolver, that one in particular, is biodegradable, like non-acid. So that's not a hazmat. If it was some kind of acid dissolver, I'd be like checking that stuff.
I know it's for us. Bottom line for us is we just pack everything really well. Like, we don't want anything to leak.
Yeah,
or
I pack I pack it very well.
We laugh at people when we buy some things.
Oh, God.
We might buy an item and the person just takes it, puts it in a polymailer
and mails
it, and it's amazing it gets
You're like, I cannot believe this did not break open. Yeah. So with any kind of things like that soap, I wrap it in a plastic bag, and then I wrap it in a second plastic bag, and then I tape it up. That's how I do it. And then I pad it really well so it's not getting like juggled around. And I've shipped several of both of those, and I've not had any of them leak or break or anything. They've all gotten to people just fine.
Hey y'all, this is Roberto from Lower Alabama again. Listen, I asked y'all a question last week or this week, and y'all answered it. I really appreciate it. It was about the subscriptions. My question now is, do you get a better, when you get searched, do you get, when they search for your item, I don't know how to word it. When they search for your item, the higher paid subscription, does that show up on top? Does that make sense? I don't know, my phone's beeping, so it's like I'm trying to, do more than one thing at once. Sorry, but do you understand what I'm saying? If you have the most expensive and, I don't know, it's like, some kind of hat, and somebody types in whatever the kind of hat is it going to show up higher if you pay more? Anyway, thanks, y'all.
No, you do not get better search results for a higher pay subscription.
Right, so again, I want to be clear. An eBay subscription is all about how much you pay to list things on eBay.
Right.
So if you're going to do it seriously and you're going to list a lot of stuff and keep a lot of stuff up online, a subscription just makes that cost cheaper.
Right.
Per item
like
is cheaper.
Bulk.
Right.
Yeah.
They give you free listings if you're a subscriber. It does not, as far as I know, put you higher in the rankings or give you better rankings.
So also, it really depends on how many you're listing. If you're going to maintain a store of 500 items and that's what's comfortable for you, don't pay for the highest. Why would you pay for the highest one? Like that doesn't make sense. And again, it's not like one of those services like, okay, here's an example. There's a place where we put our rental house on. It's called HomeAway. And you can pay for a higher subscription for higher search results. That is very clear. That is what you're paying for, higher search results. That's not the case for eBay. It's just a different system.
Right. If we didn't pay for our eBay store subscription, having 5,000 items up every month would cost us, I think, 25 cents each.
Yeah.
So just do the numbers. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But with our subscription, it costs us maybe $200.
Yeah, it's a lot lower.
That's why we do it.
Yeah, it's for bulk listing.
Yep.
Yeah, hi guys. This is Mark Roberts calling from Benton City, Washington, and I've been listening to your podcast for about a year. I've been selling on eBay off and on since about '94. Usually using the auction format just to sell some big items, sometimes for other people, sometimes for myself. But just about a year ago now, I found a valuable photograph from a photographer. And I'm a photographer myself, so I recognized who it was. And I didn't sell it on eBay, but I did sell it to an auction house. And it got a pretty high price, like over $10,000. And so that kind of piqued my interest finding stuff. I think I paid $4 for it. And so just recently I started getting a little more serious. I do commercial photography. So in between my shoots, I'm out and about around town. And I just stop in at different thrift stores and garage sales and different places and find stuff kind of in between. It's kind of a nice break. And then go home, and I already have a photo studio, so I just shoot things in my studio. But the question I did have for you guys was, I'm a little reluctant to use the international shipping feature, only because I don't really know how big the box and the weight and everything until I package it. and it seems like they want all that information up front before you can use that service. And I just wondered how you guys do it. Do you, as soon as you get an item, do you package it and weigh it so that you can enter all that information in the international shipping program? I just didn't think I wanted to, box everything up and have it on shelves in that capacity. I'd kind of tend to pull things off the shelves and then send them in when I sell them. So I've just used, national eBay instead of international. So anyway, if you could give me a little more information on how you guys do that, I'd really appreciate it. Once again, this is Mark from Benton City. Thanks.
So, first of all, congratulations. I mean, to find something and sell it for $10,000, I mean, that's like one of those things.
Yeah, that's rare.
That shows up in the paper. I mean,
right.
I
would love to know who it was.
I hope this doesn't hurt you, and this is how I mean it. It's like going into a casino, sitting down at a slot machine, putting in a quarter in, and you win $10,000
on your first try.
And then you keep going back thinking, oh, I'm just going to get that. I mean,
I'm going to win again.
$10,000. I just hope that you set your expectations correctly. Where, I mean, our experience over the years is most of the things that people donate that we're going to sell, I mean, it's like bread and butter stuff. It's going to be like $30, $40. Right. So, I mean, we've never found anything that sold for $10,000.
No.
Even $1,000 is like
our highest.
A super rare thing for us.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure people have the right expectation. Like, if you're going to be finding and selling things online, unless you're like a real expert in something and like going to photograph auctions and you're spending $5,000 to make $20,000. Right. I don't know. Okay, let's go to its question. We do not box things up as we put them on eBay.
No.
What it's called is just simply knowledge.
Yeah, so here's the deal. International shipping, it's just like regular shipping. They don't need to know those dimensions. They need to know the weight. And if it's oversized, if it's above 12 inches, yeah, you do have to estimate what the box size is. But with experience, you'll know. Estimate the box size. Add a couple inches on each side. You can even overestimate. And then do the weight plus a couple pounds of shipping material or a pound of shipping material, depending on how big it is. And it calculates the shipping.
Yeah, so it's all just going to come from experience. So maybe if you're starting out, start to box things up as you list them, so you kind of know, okay, a pair of shoes
fits in this box.
Normally going to be X amount, and then just extrapolate from there.
That's all I ever did.
Right.
And I tell you now, there are times where I estimate the size of a box. I did it the other day. I said, this would probably ship in a box that's 9 by 6 by 3 approximately, and it's going to be about 2 pounds. I went to my office, I actually found a box, and I was like, oh, this looks like the right box. I put it in, I measured it, it was 9 by 6 by 3, and it weighed 2 pounds.
And I would probably compare it to your skill doing photographs.
Right.
If you're a professional photographer, you could probably check out the light in a room and know what f-stop to put the camera on.
I don't know anything like that.
It all just comes from experience.
Right. So the more you sell stuff and the more you list stuff and you weigh it while you're, making your listing, you'll just start to pick it up and, it's fine. That's why calculated shipping is awesome.
And we always say, even now, we learn something every day.
Yeah.
And just know that knowledge accumulates.
Yes.
So, we've been selling since 2008. We know so much more since 2008, and we just get better and better and better.
And we learn stuff all the time.
Yeah.
It's like we said earlier, we don't know everything. I learn stuff from people on the blog every day.
Yep.
People are like, oh, check out this thing. I'm like, how did I not know that? That's crazy. So,
I don't want to hear how people say how cool we are. I want to hear how people do things better than us.
Right. So I can learn from them. Exactly.
Okay, that's it for it's this week. You can check out our blog at scavengerlife.com, and that's where we put all the links where that we've talked about. So you can follow them and check them out on at your own. You can also join the conversation there.
You can call and leave a question or a comment, just like you heard. The phone number is 540-407-8486.
And we post an episode every Sunday night or Monday morning. Wednesdays, we post our What Sells video that show exactly the things we sell and how much we sell them for. And Ryan does a good job,
thank you.
talking about
the
items. Oh, wow. Why, thank you.
You can subscribe to us through iTunes or YouTube, so you'll always get the latest episode.
And we also have another podcast at shampooandbooze.com where we talk about our kind of emerging vacation rental business.
Yes, we talk about it in detail.
We just posted another episode, so you can kind of hear us blab if you are looking for more of us. I guess that's weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're ending this podcast now.
Please end this thing.
3, 2, 1, bye.